intending to pass. After they finished, the teacher said that he would summon another student so that his FI could emerge. But no one wanted to volunteer for fear that they would be crushed, except for our hero. Ming tried to stop him, but he reassured him, and so he prepared for the confrontation. So, FI spoke as if he was guaranteed to win, and the fight began. Immediately, he threw FI with a sneak punch, making him think he had already won. But Lu Xing dodged it and delivered a strong counter-punch to him in the face, knocking him unconscious amidst everyone's astonishment. Thus, FI was carried to the hospital, and Lu Xing apologized to the teacher. He said that he did not mean to do that. The teacher looked at him and told him not to worry and invited him to his office. Everyone was astonished, who still did not understand what had happened, and wondered how Lu Xing had become so powerful in the office. There were suspicions among the teacher that our hero was using prohibited stimulants that increased his ki energy, but our hero denied the matter and swore that he was not taking anything. So the teacher told him that he would measure his ki energy, and if he was afraid of reversing the number, this means that he was taking stimulants. In addition to that, he would measure his fighting strength as well. In fact, Lu Xing put his hand on the measuring ball to shock the teacher when he found that his ki energy was 1.5. He says that he is a martial artist in the 8th year, so there is someone like him in the entire city of Bei. He is truly a genius. Not only that, but Lu Xing even broke the measuring device when he wanted to measure his fighting strength. This means that the device could not bear the amount of his strength. The teacher's appetite increased when he learned that Lu Xing's ki energy was weak. Xing rose from 0.7 to 1.5 in just half a month. To tell him which wealthy family you belong to, or which great master trained you, Lu Xing. Second-level martial artist in the army system, and when I entered battle health, I realized something, which is that humans will never win against monsters, and the only ones who can do that are people who have unreasonable strength that humans cannot understand. This teacher said to Lu Xing, with these results, you can entering the best class in the school. Lu Xing rejected the matter and said that he was happy with his current class. The teacher replied that he had to accept so that the school could fully support him. He agreed to do so, but on two conditions. The first was that he obtain a scholarship, and the second was that the school give him more free time during school hours. He agreed. The teacher told him that he would get 30,000 punches, but it would take 2 days to prepare him. So he gave him a black martial arts card containing 100,000 to thank Lu Xing and left the office. The teacher started saying, "This is good. Our academy has a prodigy like Lu Xing. Finally, we have someone who will be able to go to that place." Later, our hero went to a store to buy what he needed. There he saw a woman buying her daughter supplements for 30,000 in order to strengthen her ki energy. He said, "My parents cannot afford even the supplements that cost 3,000, even if they work non-stop." This shows that only strong fighters can earn a lot of money. Money, and a lot of money means that you will become stronger and stronger. Therefore, it is very difficult for a person from a poor family to become one of the best fighters. Our hero talks about King, who, despite being a genius and talented, was aware that he was restricting her progress because he was getting all the resources due to his weakness. So he made the decision to change his fate, and in the midst of this, he realized that he had just mastered all the huge amount of battle memories that he had taken from the monsters to greatly improve his fighting techniques. Thus, he headed to his dream world again and began making his way through the monsters in order to reach base 1359. Indeed, he arrived at the place and entered through a hole in the wall, which was very thick, to the point that it made him wonder what kind of battle led in the wall, which was very thick, to the point that it made him wonder what kind of battle led to the breach of a military base like this. But what Lu Xing knew was that the civilization of this world far exceeded his original knowledge. Lu Xing spotted a building different from the others that looked like it was the main headquarters or something like that, and inside it sat a monster. He seemed solemn as soon as he looked at him until he fell to the ground because of his strong auras. Lu Xing was terrified and decided that he would not approach that place. Instead, he went to explore the rest of the areas of the base and entered one of the apartments. There he found one of the devices. The surprise was that it was still working, so a three-dimensional girl came out to him and said the intelligent robotic assistant is from the 16th generation and some other information. The strange thing is that she was speaking the same language as Lu Xing. Her final command was to give him the latest news that showed that the people of this world had reached very great levels in the martial arts. But despite all this progress, they were unable to protect anyone, something in the face of monsters, so that they decided to leave their original planet and sent exploratory teams to other galaxies, but it is clear that they failed, and humanity collapsed. After Lu Xing learned about the latest news, he ordered her to give him the history of this world, but he was shocked when he discovered that it was similar to the history of a world, and this left him with one conclusion, which is that this is the future of his world after only 100 years. Without hesitation, he ordered her again to search for his personal information for him, only to discover that he would be just a civilian who lived for only 28 years. He wanted to ask her about more of his personal information, but she refused the request, and in order for her to accept, he had to give her a sample of his blood, and this is what happened that shocked him. From the results, he found that his future had changed, as he was no longer just an ordinary civilian. Rather, he became the first graduate of the Baya Institute and was classified as the third fighter in the city. He joined the army for 3 years, but he died in one of the battles at the age of 37. Make our hero realize something very important, which is that every time he increases his strength, his future changes, so he makes a decision to go beyond his current future and be first in the nation, not just the city, and to be known by all people without exception, so that he can control the fate of all of humanity, not just his own. In order to avoid the disaster that happened here, the next day, he sat down to eat. He had breakfast as usual, and his mother asked him why he was not wearing his school uniform. Instead of telling him that he had obtained a permit allowing him to be absent, he told her that the teacher had ordered them to practice at home. After breakfast, he went to practice. During that time, noticed that he was constantly changing. Recently, the teacher called him to inform him that the scholarship was ready. He thanked him. He returned to focusing on his training as he headed back to the base and asked Li to give him all the weight methods and notes related to martial arts so that she would show him thousands of results. So of course, he began giving her more customizations until he reached 3 techniques. The first was the star weight technique, which was created by Wang He, the strong man of the first level, and the second was the natural breathing technique created by Yanji Chu, who is at the first level, and finally the crystalline visions technique he created, and like the others, he is also from the first level. To be clear, the maximum level at the present time is the 9th level, so you can imagine how powerful these techniques are, and Lu Xing directly began to apply them and began to master the stars. He was able to master it successfully. The same thing applies to natural breathing. As for crystal visions, because it is a spiritual practice that strengthens the will, it took him to the world of spirits. Therefore, he was not able to master it completely, so he was satisfied with this amount. He was led to smell a foul odor that turned out to be coming out of his body because the technique of the gravity of the stars and natural breathing expel impurities from the body. He says, "This has been a thing of the past. Now my training is going quickly, and when tomorrow I make the rare recipe, it will not only make my strength rise, but it will change the field of medicines in the entire world." Tomorrow he arrived and headed to the school in order to get the scholarship to buy the ingredients for the recipe. Their teacher Cheng told him to come to school, even if just once. 1 week later, Lu Xing said to him, "Okay," and left. Meanwhile, the teacher said, "It has only been today, but I feel that he has already grown stronger." Thus, Lu Xing bought the ingredients, but he will need professional equipment to make the recipe, and since the money he has now is not enough, he thought about renting the equipment from a medical hall, but it was done. He categorically rejected his desire from all the halls he visited, and while he was thinking about buying cheap equipment, he found a medical hall in an unexpected place to enter. He found a young man who did not care at all about his work, and all he did was look at girls on his phone. Lu Xing became angry and took the phone from him, so that the young man wanted to start a fight. But as soon as he looked into Lu Xing's eyes, he felt afraid and began to listen to the words Lu Xing offered him a respectable sum of money in exchange for renting a laboratory so that the boy would agree directly. Thus, our hero began preparing the potion precisely and with absolute concentration to finally obtain a drink that strengthens the muscles and blood. He was happy with his success from the first attempt, but he still had to try it by himself. From the first mouthful, he felt that his body would explode from the power of the recipe, alerting him to its effect as it increased his vitality very significantly. Not only that, but it also increases skin density, lightens the complexion, and many other wonderful things. This recipe is the summary of the wisdom and trade accumulated in the world of martial arts over the course of 100 years. A year ago, I felt as if I was doing an advertisement for a skin lightening product while in Lu Xing's place. I was amazed by what he had made. Suddenly the boy started knocking on the door to tell Lu Xing to hurry up and leave because his manager had come. After we saw the manager coming, Lu Xing fled from the laboratory to start tasting the dose of their medical halls. She said that the effectiveness of our medicine was very weak. Martial arts were developing quickly, and the medications are changing day after day. She looks around and sees a broken picture of herself and her father. She realizes that someone has entered the laboratory. She becomes angry and goes to Mafi, the boy who works for her, who clearly shows how much he admires her. She tells him that he is fired. She returns to cleaning her laboratory and finds the remains of the ingredients of Lu Xing's recipe. So she mocks her, saying, "It seems that this strange man wants to develop his own recipe, but developing a recipe requires a large store of knowledge about medicines, a lot of money, and many attempts. A person who does not even have his